Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever part of the day it is for you from both of us here at Japan Distilled Show Tuesday, number 142. A very big and important kanpai to start us out. Kanpai.
Lucky 142.
Lucky 142. And we are in diverse parts of the world. For those of you who don't know, Jake Tenenbaum is sitting in today as Stephen Lyman, our regular co-host, I believe, is in Texas.
Yes, he is.
And so we've got it's not even a bi-coastal thing. I'm in Hawaii at the moment. Jake, where are you at?
Haddonfield, New Jersey, right outside of sunny Philadelphia.
And how are things over there?
Entirely acceptable. It's no Hawaii, but I'm not going to complain.
Copacetic, ducky, all the words.
Yes.
Hawaii's been fun today. It's at least we're in Kailua, which is on the windward side of Oahu, and it has been windy and it has been very fitful with its showers this afternoon, but refreshing and re-energizing and everything in between. So I'm very grateful to be here, and I will be for a few more days before returning to Japan. But yeah, so let's without further ado, I don't know if there's any booze news or anything, but the first banner of the day, Jig, anything come to mind? Boozy newsy.
Well, one article which seems to be pretty widely circulated, the New York Times just put out a piece saying that sake's popularity is booming in America, which I get a kick out of because, I mean, sake has been in the US so long now that, while sure, there are plenty of people that you'll run into who aren't entirely sure what it is or aren't sure at all what it is. You could say the same for a lot of other drinks out there.
Sure.
So it was kind of funny seeing it pitched almost as if it's an emerging category.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. So
I've seen that article shared several places where I wasn't expecting it. People are reading it, and hopefully it gets them thinking about even more interesting beverages coming out of Japan.
yeah, I also liked obviously Eric Asimov, the journalist behind the article, talked to some pretty important people in the industry. And it's great that our friends at Umami Mart, and I'm wearing an Umami Mart shirt today, were profiled in that pretty extensively. I had a funny back and forth with Kayoko, who in one of the photos is in the background jiggering Nihonshu like in midair. And she's like, "How is
Uh,
that? That's how I'm memorialized in the New York Times, is not even using a flat surface to measure out pores of Nihonshu." But yeah, we joked about that a little bit. But it's really cool that places that have spent so much time and energy trying to spread the good word about these drinks
yes.
have, shown up in the biggest on the biggest stage that you could probably, or one of the biggest that you could hope for.
No, for sure. And a quick aside on Umami Mart. While I was in Fukuoka, Stephen took me to a small bar that I absolutely cannot remember the name of, but the doorknob was shaped like the back half of a pig. Actually, I think it was the
Oh.
front half on one side and the back half on the other side. Um, but the woman that runs the bar happened to have an Umami Mart bag, which really caught me by surprise.
That is, I wonder what was the conduit for that, I wonder, because Ian has spent time over there. Kyoko and Yoko most recently was in Kyushu, so I wonder,
I I
could have
think
been
it
that.
was I think it was I think Yoko brought it on her visit.
Got it.
If
Got it. Well, that
if
makes
I'm
sense.
remembering correctly, but we did have a lot to drink that night. So,
Things are a little hazy,
yeah.
understandable. Yeah, few good nights in Fukuoka and with anything else. So,
Only
uh,
good nights in Fukuoka.
yep, great town. And
Yeah.
booze news, on my end, I don't know if there's anything of extreme consequence coming up. I'm always looking for festivals and things of that nature that might be interesting to people. And in Japan, there may be a couple, but uh, the only thing I can think about right now is the bonsai pipeline, and that's not very helpful. So let's move on to the main event here, and this certainly is booze related, and it is titled at the top of the screen, at least on my screen, and that is, of course, a a little bit of a feature for a small, minuscule, micro distillery on this island that I'm on right now, up on the North Shore, called Hawaiian Shochu Company, and I think you've heard a little bit about this from us in the past. And Jake, I don't know what when I say Hawaiian Shochu Company, what are the things that spring to mind? Do you have any details?
So pretty much all I know is that the and correct me if I get any of this wrong, but the gentleman that runs the operation was working at Monzen for some time, who of course makes some of the absolute best sweet potato shochu out there.
No love detected.
Um, and when he left, he moved out to Hawaii, and I believe that at least one or two of the folks from Monzen came out to help him set up the distillery. And th did they ship out one of their old stills or some old equipment from the distillery as well?
I know that the at least the fermentation pots, all ceramic and all
That's
more
what
than
it
a
was.
century old, were gifts from the from the boss at Manzen Distillery to Mr. Hirata and his wife who moved to Oahu probably about 11 years ago. So yes, there is equipment that he might have. I'm not sure if he actually worked with those pots, but they are of the
Mhm.
same breed that are used in Manzen Distillery, and he'll very happily tell you, it's like, yeah, I copied the layout to a certain extent when he set up his distillery in Haleiwa, which is up again on the north shore of Oahu Island. And so, yeah, everything you said, as far as I know, is correct. I also, to fill in a little bit more detail about Mr. Hirata, he had the idea to open a and make sweet potato shochu in Hawaii even before he started working at Manzen, and that was
Mhm.
always his dream, apparently. And so, part of the whole thing was just convincing the president and the boss of Manzen to give him a few years, and then he was guaranteed to leave. Essentially, he was going to lose a valuable kurabito that he had trained. But somehow Mr. Hirata convinced Manzen Shacho that this was a good idea, and eventually he was allowed in, and he became a very valuable part of the family while he was there, and then when his time was up, he headed overseas, and he uh, got some land up in northern Oahu, and he set up a shochu distillery, which still to this day it just is remarkable. When you see it, it's a cute little place. It looks a little bit like a simple warehouse sort of setup with some character. It's got a
Mhm.
big gate out front that they lock for when they know visitors are coming over. And they do two batches of sweet potato shochu per year. And I think the grand total in terms of the volume, I think when you look at the entire amount of bottling for the calendar year, you're only talking like six or 7,000
Oh, wow.
750 milliliter bottles. We're talking very, very small production here. And so it's two vintages, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have the koji muro, so they do all of their rice koji by hand in the old school style. They have their clay pots sunk up to their shoulders in the distillery floor, just like the old school places do it in Japan. And then they have a wooden pot still, which
Oh, really?
again, yeah, is very, very old school. So it's unlike, for instance, we saw the wooden pot stills at Wakashio in
Mm.
Shibushi. His wooden pot still here in Hawaii doesn't have that braided bamboo cord to keep it all together. He actually
Mhm.
uses steel hoops, like on a regular barrel. Um, Mr. Tsudome lives an ocean away, so an artisan that could actually fix this still would need to be imported by plane, and I don't know if he has time for that. So the steel hoops are what keep the whole business together. And so that it's a little bit of a nod to modernity there. But otherwise, it is a very old school handmade sweet potato shochu distillery using local spuds. I mean, sweet potatoes from the islands here. And every time the mash is a little bit different because he works with what he can get. What are the quality sweet potatoes that are available? Can he get enough of them? And he works from there. So every batch is a little bit different.
Does he use white koji, black koji?
I'm pretty sure it was black koji. Wow, I don't
Mm,
know why I'm blanking on that, but I think it was black koji. Yes, it is. And the sweet potatoes are all different colors. I mean, I don't think Kogane Sengan is harvested here, so that's not an option. And I've seen, at least some of the fermentation vats are just purple.
uh-huh.
Clearly we're using some very, very fruity, interesting aroma profile sweet potatoes that are, harvested, here, Maui, Molokai, and probably elsewhere, depending on what's available and what is good. And he, adjusts and he tinkers and he comes out with a couple of batches every year. I have a bottle from batch number 19, and you can see that their name brand is Namihana. Nami, of course, means wave, and Hana means flower. And it's a really nice island feel design. They go so far as to mention that the mash is 82% Hawaiian sweet potatoes and 18% rice koji. They also write that it's kametsubo shikomi, so it's clay pot fermented. And what else do they put on here? Yeah, Imojochu, 30% ABV. No additives, no coloring, unfiltered, black koji. I was
Mm,
right. It
mm.
does actually say it on the label in both Japanese and English. So pretty cool. It's my third trip to this distillery. Again, I learned some new things as you always do. That's why you always go back. Never think you're gonna get even a quarter of the story of the distillery from a single visit. You do have to go back and adopt a fresh perspective and ask new questions. And fortunately, because I had my family with me, we had lots of fresh questions, things that I would never think of to ask. So
Mm.
that was good.
Well,
Yeah,
since you said it varies so much from batch to batch, depending on what sort of sweet potatoes he is available, and of course, since he's only doing two batches a year, even if he was using the same sweet potatoes every time, I'm sure there would be a certain, there would be a distinct character with each batch. Um,
absolutely.
do you find that it drinks like if you put it up in a lineup with half a dozen sweet potato shochu from different producers in Japan, is it something that would stand out immediately and you'd say there's something different going on here, or it really does have the same character? Well, I shouldn't say the same character because sweet potato shochu can be so many different things.
Hmm.
Um, is it kind of its own thing, or does it drink like a typical Japanese sweet potato shochu?
It that's an interesting question. I think you can find elements in it that a rational person would find bend it in two different directions. You can make the argument that this is just a very well crafted sweet potato shochu with a lot of character, a lot of really interesting aromatics from the variety of sweet potatoes that go into it. And then at the same time, you could easily make the argument this is different. It has a different structure to it, and you could point to, for instance, the fact that the rice they use is not really it's not a Japanese rice. It's not even a Thai or Indica style rice that is used so much in the shochu industry and almost exclusive, pretty much at the expense of all other rice strains in the awamori industry. They use something from California, which is kind of a mid-length cow rose rice or something. I can't remember exactly
Interesting.
what the strain is, but they bring that in from California. He's pretty happy with it. But I think it does give a different baseline to the koji. It does give it it's not quite as, it is closer to a Japanese style short grain rice than it is to the long grain indica profile, but it's still it's different. It is just a little bit removed from what we have become accustomed to. So I think you could make both arguments. It's both
Mhm.
clearly made by somebody who knows how to make really good sweet potato shochu, but then at the same time, it is a little bit unique. It is a little bit different. And at 30% ABV, when compared with most shochu that's available on the Japanese market, it has a little bit more body. It has a little bit more girth to it. It's rounder, and it's quite good. It's quite good. And now there are some batches that I have appreciated more than others, and that's because the vintages can vary so much. I actually
Mhm.
haven't tried this 19th yet. This 19th batch. I have this bottle. This is not my bottle, actually. This is a family member's bottle, so I'm not allowed to open it. But I do have a bottle that I will be opening, and but I'm thinking I'll wait until I get back to Japan to do so. And I'm driving
Mhm.
on this trip everywhere for my family, so
Oh,
I have to be very careful about these things. I don't get to imbibe quite as much as I normally would, which is fine, which is fine. In paradise, there are many other things to intoxicate you,
I
so
love that your family from the US has the guy with the Japanese driver's license
yep,
who doesn't have his own car,
right. Who's
who, even
driving
if he
everybody
did, would
around?
be driving on the other side of the road.
That's right.
They've got you driving.
Yeah, they got me driving.
Seems
So
unfair.
yeah, no, I'm happy that it's worked out this way. It was a bit of a coup to get so much of the family over here for this. It really didn't
Mhm.
didn't look like it. It looked like it was only going to be three of us, and now it's seven. So I'm very happy about that. And hopefully we can next time this happens. Hopefully it's a little bigger still. But yeah, the Hawaiian Shochu Company. If you have a chance to be in Oahu, I think it's a a great opportunity to learn about shochu. And I'm saying that as someone who has visited a lot of distilleries, and this is a great place educationally to learn about these things. So even though for instance my brother-in-law who really enjoys shochu, it's his first distillery tour ever, shochu distillery tour, but I would say he's been to one of the better ones. Quite
Mhm.
honestly, it's 100% handmade sweet potato shochu made by a guy who used to make some of the best sweet potato shochu available in the world. So it's not like he's not cutting corners, and he's
Yeah.
not out here to make a quick buck. That's for sure. He's doing something that he loves, and he's doing a good job of it. He's very well supported by the community.
Well, and on top of that, I was really happy to hear the way that you described the shochu in terms of how it relates to a typical sweet potato shochu from Japan and just something else.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's exactly what I would hope for, that it has the quality, there's enough of the character there that if you weren't looking for it, maybe you wouldn't catch on that there's something else.
Yeah.
But that there's enough that makes it special beyond just, I mean, on paper, what makes it special, being made in an entirely different country, this really unique
Yeah.
environment with local sweet potatoes. Um,
Right.
no, that sounds really cool. And
Yeah.
also, I like that you commented on the proof because I'm really finding that for me, and you know me, I love sweet potato shochu, and early on, early on, as a recovering whiskey drinker, I would have said Genshu everything. I want all my sweet potato shochu, 36, 37%.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm really finding that for me, the sweet spot, if I'm drinking it straight,
Hmm.
and granted, this might not be for everyone. This might not be for the typical shochu drinker who will more often gravitate towards OUR and Mizuwari.
Hmm.
I really like sweet potato shochu around 30 to 33%. For me, generally speaking, that's the sweet spot
Yeah.
where you have just a little bit more body, you have just a little bit more character than you do at 25,
Hmm.
but you're not bumping it up so much that it turns into something else. Where the difference between, a 25% shochu and something at Genshu, I don't want to say it's like they're entirely different spirits, but sometimes it kind of is.
Yeah.
where I kind of think 30 to 33 is that Goldilocks area.
Yeah,
And
that's yeah.
as someone who's been drinking shochu a little longer than I have, and has had a little more than I have, I'm just curious. I'm just curious what your thoughts are there. And I know you're a big Oyawari guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think you can tell just by um looking at the Honkaku Spirits portfolio that we do tend to gravitate a little bit north of 25. We are pulled to at least 30. The three ladies are at 35. We put them at 35 because they express best at that ABV. We could have brought them out as like completely, well, essentially Genshu, but it just wasn't, well, two reasons. Number one, there's enough angel share over time that we're going to have to, it's going to come down anyway. But two, it just, for whatever reason, the difference between 37 and 35 on the sweet potato was night and day. It really was.
I believe it.
Third,
Yeah.
yeah, 30, 33, 32 and a half were also excellent.
Uh,
We tried it at 32, 31 for Mahoko,
mm,
32, 31, 30, 27 and a half, 25. And then we went up and we really zeroed in on the between 30 to 30, 35, 36. And it just, for whatever reason, 35 seemed to sit really nicely for us. And coincidentally, the other two worked out the same way, Masako and Motoko. And but 33 was beautiful.
mm.
32 and a half was great. We would have been happy with it anywhere in there. So I guess for me, it's the generally 30 to 33 is a safe zone. 35 sometimes also works. But you're right. When it gets up to Genshu and it's not, it hasn't, um, except in very exceptional situations. It does improve with a small amount of dilution. I think we've seen that time and again.
And that's something that I feel like whiskey drinkers, a lot of the folks I know who are hardcore whiskey drinkers, even if they don't always like to drink at cask strength,
Hmm.
they will prefer to buy the bottle at cask strength because I think there's just this kind of misconception that, well, if it needs a little water, I'd rather add it myself. But
Yeah.
in practice, a lot of folks I know, you take a sip, you take another sip, you acclimate to the proof. Even if it's not drinking as best as it possibly can, they're just going to stick with it. Where I've found that over time, I've really gravitated more towards, 90 to 100 proof. So
Sure.
I didn't really put two and two together until now that it's kind of funny that, with shochu, it's kind of ended up the same where, all right, cask strength or genshu is really nice. The typical bottling strength is also nice, but there's a sweet spot in between, you
Hmm.
know, that just works out perfectly.
Wonder if there's a formula for this. Probably is mathematically,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what we're finding. And your comment, 33% is spot on. There's a lot of top quality dilutions there. I think in terms of um, I don't know what it is. I really don't. Maybe it is formulaic, but it does just tend to flex at that dilution. So
Mm.
we'll keep paying attention to that. We'll keep asking to try new products at that level, even if they normally are bottled at 25. But yeah, great point. I'm gonna shuffle us on to the third and final banner here, which is bottle kill or newly opened. It's a double. Do you have anything interesting that you either recently broke into or recently sent out to pasture?
Both. One,
Both.
I just killed this, and you might remember what was in here because I don't
Oh,
remember exactly what it was. I remember it was an Isho bean of some sort of Miyazaki Majocho bottled in 2009 that I picked up at that secondhand shop in Kagoshima. Um, I don't know if you ended up with that bottle, if Steven ended up with that bottle. Hopefully,
it
someone has it. Not
it
that there was
was
too much left.
it was Hina Musume, I think.
That's what it was.
Yep. Right. Made in Nichinan. Miyazaki. Wow, that took some luck just remembering that.
Yeah. So I have the last little bit of that I brought back with me in this beautiful double-walled titanium tumbler.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Stephen Lyman.
That's a great vessel.
And as far as a newly opened bottle, behind me, I have it is a house fermented chicory cola that my friend Danny Childs from Farm and Fisherman in Cherry Hill, New Jersey makes. Um, it's actually, I shouldn't say makes because it's one of his experimental batches. It's not quite finished yet, but it
Hmm.
is very tasty and it's given me a chance to make some fun sweet potato shochu and colas, which I've decided because and if you know someone who has done this before, please let me know. I will be a little disappointed because I can't seem to find any record online of anyone doing a sweet potato shochu and cola until I did it. Um, and it's really nice. It,
Yeah.
so the idea came to me a while ago, and then I forgot about it. But when I got off the train in Kagoshima City, and I saw a big Coca-Cola advertisement next to a big Satsuma Shiranami advertisement,
Hmm.
the idea came to me. And I didn't actually get to try it until I was in Kumamoto, and I was at an izakaya, and I saw they had Coca-Cola floats on the menu. You know, Coca-Cola with some vanilla ice cream. So I ordered one with some sweet potato shochu, and they looked at me like I was absolutely insane, but they made it anyway. So my newly opened bottle is a house fermented chicory cola.
House fermented chicory cola, and that I am intrigued. So sweet potato shochu meets Coca-Cola. I can envision it. I can imagine it, and it doesn't surprise me when you say that it works really well.
And maybe I'm not the right guy to ask because I'm not a very big soda guy unless we're talking just soda water.
Yeah, me too.
Um, and I've never been a particular Coke fan, but when you add a little booze to it, I think it gets a lot better.
I think everything gets better with a little bit of booze. Garrett's on. He says Jake Snack the innovator. Yes,
Hello,
exactly.
Garrett.
Right.
Cheers.
Um, yeah, always. That's very interesting. You heard it here. And this is perhaps a reminder that it's basically last call for the entries to the home bartending competition
Yes.
uh, that Stephen and I are going to be judging. We're going to try to get at least five of the entries over to a bartender that we trust and who is flexible enough to entertain our harebrained ideas and to help us reconstruct these drinks and figure out which one we think is the most interesting and most faithful to the awamori or shochu that is used as the base spirit. So you've got basically until the end of today to get that in. And we've had a few entries already, so thank you if you've already entered. If you want to enter one more, more than welcome to. But yep, that's about to come to a close. The first ever home bartending sweepstakes. Hopefully, we have something very shiny and fun to share with everybody afterwards, and then we'll be sending somebody a nice gift as a reward. Very cool. Let's see.
What have you opened or killed?
Yeah, I mean, we opened and have nearly killed a bottle of High West blended bourbon,
Ah,
but nothing on the shochu side of things. Like I said, we have some of this Namihana, but it's a little bit too, it's a little too valuable. So my brother-in-law has a bottle that he wants to get back to Vermont intact. I have a couple of bottles, one of which I'm going to give to somebody that I meet in Maui soon. So. I don't know. We haven't had a chance to really get into the shochu, and Whole Foods here in Kailua used to have a couple bottles of shochu. I remember they had
really?
Jovo, Kokuto sugar shochu for a while, and now there's nothing left. They moved the spirits aisle over, and I don't know where all of that went. They appeared to have discontinued it, but that's all right. I'm happy to take a break and drink a little bit of something different.
Little American Prairie.
My mother's a bourbon drinker, so yeah. What are you gonna do?
Next time I see you, I'll have to give you a bottle for her.
Uh, I will not say no, and my mother will love you even more than she already does, even though you guys haven't met yet. Well, cool. Thank you, Jake, for joining me, and thank
Always a
you
pleasure.
everybody out there who has jumped on at one point or another, and to everybody else who watches this on archive, as most people do. You will find us again next week, same time, same place for the 143rd edition of Shochu'sday. And hopefully you're out there somewhere around the world, either sipping something nice or thinking about what you will sip later in the day, as I am once I don't have to drive anymore. But in the meantime, from both of us here on opposite ends of the United States, to all of you out there, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.